no bad side that I could identify, save one. Little more detail is that how they make their money is that they then approach with a letter of introduction from the town, businesses in the community to see if they would like to attach additional footage to this piece. And the way they do it is they have a little video in the center of the screen that talks about Oakland. And then there are icons or company logos around the outside which you can click on. So if you're interested in real estate, you know, you can click on the real estate icon, or a bank, or whatever it is. Maybe the country club. And then somebody clicks on that, then the company pays, the business in town pays this video company an amount to be featured on this website. And that's how they make their money. Rather than us contracting some advertising agency to make a piece, you know, which we might pay for, because time gets spent setting up the video crew and all the hours involved in transportation and production and so forth and so on. So Josh Rennie is interested in working on this together, and apparently not so much if he has to do the whole thing independently for the town. There is some time involved. And I had expressed interest initially, and I looked at the Kennebec County video, and I think it's attractive. Sure. On the Kennebec County one, there's a flash of First Park, you know, so Oakland gets a little mention. There's a golf course, you know, in Belgrade that's got a little blurb, and they show you what's nice about Kennebec County. I had one misgiving, which they told me how they've treated it elsewhere. We don't necessarily endorse any of those businesses because obviously we have no control over how people do business, and if maybe one of those businesses has an issue with the town, or we have an issue with one of them on some matter that we don't need to specify, but it could come up. Are we endorsing certain ones and not others? And so they have a disclaimer that can be attached to this. It says, you know, we don't necessarily endorse these people, but these are ones that, you know, are in our community. And so as a business attraction tool, it looks like a good opportunity, but I felt reluctant about signing any kind of a production contract, copies of which you have in front of you, without bringing this to your attention to see whether you think this is worth our attention or not. There's a frequently asked question sheet that you may have had a chance to look at. We have the rights to, you know, approve or disapprove what they come up with if we don't think it portrays us accurately or in ways that we'd like to be portrayed. And there's a letter of introduction to businesses saying that yes, we recognize this company exists, we've talked with them, we're interested in developing this sort of a product. We're not necessarily, we're indicating that a representative will be contacting people. And so I said, you know, that's a great question for my town council. It's been some time since the last council meeting, so this has been sort of waiting for a demonstration of interest or disapproval from you. The company knows that I'm talking with you about this tonight. The town managers that I've mentioned know that I'm talking with you about this tonight. And we'd like some expression of interest that we can pursue this, or absolutely not, or let's give it a try and see how it works and what you might think of the idea. It's a little bit outside the box, but I think it might be a good way to promote the community, and I know we're interested in trying to showcase our best points and entice new businesses and people to the community.
Well, I think it's a good idea, Peter. Sounds interesting to me, especially to promote summer camps and things like that. But I don't see, you know, from what I read here, what would be the advantage of going in it with other towns? I mean, it sounds like we're gonna have to do our own town thing. I say we, looking at you, but somebody's gonna have to present the facts for the town and, you know, the things that they want to do to promote Oakland itself, and probably...
It's a time commitment. And I know that Fairfield was interested in putting some time into it, but maybe not the several days involved in working with this video crew and taking them around to the number of places that they need to see to do a full piece on each community. So his thought was, well, if we do a regional thing in Fairfield, Winslow, Oakland, then maybe one day instead of 3 days of spending time with this production crew was his reason for hoping that we can do it that way. I didn't want to open or close any doors, but
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to work with those towns on it, but I just didn't understand how it was gonna lessen what we had to do any if we work with, because we
less
want.
time. There's less video footage devoted to each one if you're working with a group of 3, but you're still getting,
We don't want them to click on the Oakland website though and get things about Fairfield and Winslow.
and Oakland.
We want them to get just Oakland.
It would be, isn't this a nice part of the state
Oh, maybe,
to come and
okay.
enjoy? You know,
All right.
there are nice restaurants here and there, and
Yeah.
attractions, but
I
if
think
we
it-
go our own way, I think the company would be fine with that. I think we'd probably lose Fairfield's interest, that according to what Josh indicated.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, I think it's good to do it either way, whichever would work best for us.
Either way,
Yeah.
good to hear.
If we went alone, would you feel that you have enough time, effort, that we have enough to present to be by ourselves? And I guess, how do they figure the cost, and do they have to have a certain number of businesses that sign on to say, yeah, I'll give you the $500, $1,000, whatever it is, and if they don't get $5,000 of commitments from businesses, do they not do it? And that might be a rationale for a regional one, where you may not have enough businesses in one town that would do it.
They're opening a door for, we're opening a door for them. Again, I refer to the Kennebec County one. In the several different portions of that you can look at, there's a section of it that's devoted to education, recreation, businesses, residential. On the residential one, there's place around the border for the various real estate agencies. Well, if you look at that one on the Kennebec County site, there may be 2 or 3. If you go to the educational one, there may be an RSU and 3 colleges. There are varying numbers, is what I'm saying, which I think reflects the success that their sales team has after they come into an area or a town and start talking to people. I've spoken with one a business person in town, and they were very interested. They said, "Oh yeah, give me the contact information. I'm interested in that." So it's not like people are automatically going to say, "No, not for me." I mean, this may be a good advertising tool for our businesses as well. I mean, it may be a real plus if it's no cost for us. They'd like to do it.
I would think it certainly would be, for anybody that was looking for a job here in Oakland, they would certainly look at something like that, see what kind of an area they were coming to, and so, you know, check some businesses out, or some, especially some real estate dealers, so.
Well, if you're looking for a place to buy some property,
Yeah.
nice way to sort of see what's going on.
Yeah, if there's no cost to us, it's pretty much a win-win.
Yeah, that's the thing I like.
If the Kennebec County one hadn't impressed me, I probably wouldn't be pushing it like this, but it looks nice.
We would get a chance to look at it before it was aired.
Yes, we would. Yeah.
What's Waterville doing that's their own way that?
Well, I can only give you a second-hand answer, but the Winslow managers had been in conversation with the Waterville manager, and apparently they have a similar sort of arrangement with somebody else, not with this particular firm, that they're interested in the work, but not this particular opportunity.
I'd make a motion, we proceed, let Peter proceed with it, and see if it is better to do it, you know, with the 3 communities, or better to do it alone, however it turns out. Because I think it's a good place for our businesses to promote themselves, you know, for Oakland to promote their schools and all the things they have.
Motion made, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Next one is to discuss the sewer department staffing for superintendent's retirement in August.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a little more on this tonight, but the piece that came to me, came very late this afternoon, and I was coming back from the event at Sunday River, so, I'm not really ready to talk about what came. What I would like to ask you about, though, is the last time I brought this to your attention, we were looking at a job description, or let's say an updated job description for the superintendent's position, based on the work that's done now by the sewer department as opposed to the treatment that was done, before we hooked up with Waterville Sewage District. There are two people in the world that know how to operate that facility. One is retiring, and the other one is interested in this position. So I am asking point blank if you would consider allowing me to pursue a direct hire on this. There are reasons that I haven't mentioned to you that I'd like to offer before you reply. Without naming names, this person has been involved with the inspection of the facility as it went together. This person we have hired at fairly, let's say we've paid private fees for engineering work that this person would contribute to us as a result of working for the town of Oakland. So that work that in conjunction with other departments, shall we say, that would allow us to have in-house some capabilities that we've had to hire at a higher rate of pay, much higher rate of pay in the past. So the direct hire is an option that I think we'd be foolish not to consider very, very seriously, given the fact that our operation is not one where we can fail, even briefly, in keeping that thing working as it should. We have an opportunity to hire someone. If I had said his name, which I'd much prefer not to, you'd know who I meant. The person has a good reputation. Our track record with this person is good, and it seems as though the only matter would be the results of the negotiation. But when I presented the job description to you before, Dana had, as anyone normally would, said, well, we'll be advertising for this position, and in this case, I'm very concerned about bringing someone outside in and having them try to learn as much as we'd be giving up were we not to make a direct hire. So that's as much as I'd like to say without hearing your thoughts or questions or direction.
Can I ask one question? Is he already an engineer?
Yeah.
He's just got some qualifications.
And this person is interested,
Yes.
you feel for him, yeah. And he
We
knows,
discussed this at length.
yeah.
Yeah.
He certainly knows.
What
the
I
job
would, what I
is.
would like to also mention to you though, is that one of the issues is when somebody works a work week, what about the time beyond that work week? We don't hire someone to be on duty 24/7, 365 days a week. So what I've been trying to organize for you is a proposal that would allow for some on-call coverage, you might say, that would allow for us to feel secure that the operation is being watched without putting one person on call 24/7. And that's the information that I got late this afternoon that I haven't had a chance really to even read. That might be part and parcel of your approval or disapproval of this once we see what some of the dollars involved. But I hope that you can see some advantage in what I've explained. But I feel compelled to ask you about this before we get too far into it, and left field is not a good place unless you're a ball player.
I think we have some pretty technical systems down there now, and if we got somebody that, well, we know we have somebody that knows how they operate, because he was involved in getting them And we hired him to watch over the contract and make sure we got our money's worth when they was installed, so he certainly knows the systems, and if we could get somebody of that caliber to run them for us, it'd be to our advantage, I would think.
Other alternatives then invite having to call in higher paid help when things come up.
Right.
So having the in-house capability has a lot to be said for.
Hopefully that we, oh, go ahead, Don, I'll wait.
You know,
My thought on this person is a very good person, but like the person that's leaving, part of the reason why he's leaving, there's no one else there to help him. There's no backup. And I think we gotta make sure that if we do hire this person that you're thinking of, that is very, very, very qualified, do we have a backup in place? Do we have someone in place, or someone that we can teach to do that? Because this person too, if we're gonna spend all the money and get him here, then he's gonna leave too after 4 or 5 years, cause I know at his house, he has a camper, and he likes to go camping with his family, and still's got a young family, he's got a young fellow going off to college sometime soon, and wanna go visit him, and, or wanna go and see his college. And so we gotta,
This, in response to what you just said, Mike, this document that came this afternoon is from an organization, and the organization has staff who does similar work for another community in the area. So that it wouldn't necessarily be one person, but it might be an organization that would meet this need for us with their staff. So as this gets studied and discussed and negotiated, I'd like to come back to you with something that would be ready for your consideration after we've tried to make a good deal.
I was basically gonna bring up the same type of thing that Mike was talking about.
probably a lot more eloquently said.
Sorry, that's fine.
You said it well.
The additional, I guess, as we develop a plan, or as you look at the paperwork, is there a potential for an in-house person to become somewhat involved? Do we have a individual or individuals in other departments that could be trained? Because the other possibility is that in 5 years, this person leaves anyway, even with the support, and something else comes up, and we'll be back in the same position. And it's always nice to have somebody on board who has been an intern, who has done some work. So I guess I would agree that it sounds good from what you said, and a full package with, this is the person we're hiring, this is the support we're gonna have, and I'm not saying we have to do this, and we've got a person working in this particular department that we'd like to bring in and have them become, not necessarily apprentice, but they would learn some of the things so that someday down the road, if we need another person, this person might be interested in stepping in. 'Cause it sounds like it's that type of position that you really need to groom somebody on board, or else you're gonna be in the same position 10 years from now when this person is. So in concept, I think, it's a great idea. Just let's look at a whole package and see what we can do.
That's really what I wanted to discuss. Thank you.
Item number 8 is to discuss Earth Day activities at the transfer station.
We put some information in the packet. Don had developed an interesting memo for a combination of activities that we would like to organize for the transfer station around the concept of Earth Day. And there's a number of ideas here that Dawn came up with that John and I had a chance to discuss this morning. And we'd like to try and put these ideas together over a period of 3 weeks, so that the amount of material that, say, any particular household might like to bring to participate might not all have to come in one visit. Specifically, we had a vote from the council about the free electronics drop-off, which is scheduled for April 12th. Is the wind just doing that?
I think so.
Really? Wow. So that is that's been advertised at electronics. John thinks that from the things that he's hearing at the transfer station, we're gonna get a lot of people. The operation itself will take some space. They'll set their box on the property, and people will drive up with their electronics, and we'll try to make sure that we help steer people into the right spots. Other activities that would kind of go along with spring cleanup, if you will, would be a half-price day, and this is one that Dawn and John and I have talked about. We'd like to make sure we get the council's support for the idea before we do it. But the half-price day would be for any of those items that we normally charge for, whether it's appliances, refrigerators, tires, John thought couches and furniture, those Freon, you know, the air conditioners, the things that we have to take Freon, we charge 15, we could charge $7.50, and advertise a half-price day for those items on April 19th. And then do the shredding, which is another one that's apt to bring a fair number of people during the time in which it takes place, to do the no-cost shredding on April 26th. And we thought that over the month of April, we could promote each of these dates for those and not overwhelm the staff or the facility with people showing up and, you know, getting in the wrong line, because this one wants to shred and the other one's got electronics, and they're getting in each other's way as they try to get to the spot where they need to put things out. But if that sounds good, John thought that his existing staff could handle it that way, and that it would be a great service to the community, and we think we could keep the vendors happy in that manner as well, to work efficiently. But aside from our conversation and the conversations we've had with John, we thought this would be a good thing to bring to the council to say, yep, great idea, let's do it, or, you know, something we hadn't thought about, or other dates perhaps, but we think we could pull this off soon and have it kind of coincide with Earth Day and basically the spring cleanup theme. So that's what we wanted to put out on the table, and hope that you can support this.
The only other thing I'll throw out is, we've done little bits and pieces in the past, and it always becomes a haphazard date program. And the discussions, if this is successful, we could do this every year and have it around Earth Day, which is set for April
22nd.
April 22nd every year, regardless of what day of the week it is. So Oakland would have its Earth Day celebration in the month of April, and hit these periodically so that people would get used to the fact that, oh yeah, April's coming up, let's save this stuff and bring it in all in. Couple downsides is obviously if people save things up, it's not really a downside. John thinks that the money is not an issue. People who bring in tires and refrigerators other times of the year will save them until this time. So that might be something he's gonna have to, you know, watch to see if his revenue drops during the year tremendously because we're focusing on this. I guess the hope is that people will bring them here and not just ditch them somewhere else because they figure those fees are too high. And the other thing we talked about was limiting it. You can see out here, it now says the electronics is only for Oakland residents. The same thing would happen with the, you know, the tires and refrigerators. It'd just be Oakland residents, and on the tires it might be a minimum or maximum. You can only bring in 4 tires, and it's not a business thing. It's not for one of the businesses who has 100 tires, all of a sudden that they're gonna dump them here because they can get rid of them for $1 a piece instead of $2. So there are some things that John's working out and trying to make sure that we start off on the right foot, and then after reviewing it, after it's done for a year, see what may have to happen differently.
I think it'd be a lot more orderly if you did it on the 3 different days, so
Yeah.
that,
Oh, definitely.
you know, spread the crew out a little bit, because it's pretty busy there on the weekend.
No,
I don't
John
know
was
why I
very,
go weekends, I got all week off, but I always go on the weekend.
and this works well. You know, one of the things that I always think about is income taxes, and this is after the tax season, so that people after so many years can discard and shred all that stuff. And if they know April, the last weekend of April is the day you can get rid of those things, it would be a service for them.
He's thinking there's quite a lot of electronics, you know, that people have been sort of keeping because they didn't know what to do with, and this would be a good way to, you know, clean up that corner.
Good idea.
I think it's great.
Do you wanna just make a little supportive motion for the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
There you go.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
No, go ahead.
Thank you, that's great, that's helpful, thanks.
Good idea.
I wondered how I did all my stuff in one meeting.
The
My
warrant,
biggest concern is that,
sorry,
is the snow gonna be gone, so we can.
So you get tired?
Yeah,
we don't get any more,
It's not gonna be going ever, is the question.
we don't get any more.
no guarantees, Peter.
I know. We have prepared a warrant for your signature for the town report, so that we can have the town meeting May 6th. And if this is to your satisfaction, we would invite you to sign a copy, and we'll take the town report to the printer tomorrow. And hopefully we got everything the way that you intended it. I think we've got the votes captured correctly, the amounts captured correctly. The town report's ready to go. Thank you for your work. It's coming that way.
At the same time,
I
the
thought it said
passes
pull out.
back down to the-
Well, I've got my copy here, but
There you go.
Jan, did you send one of those around? Thank
The
you.
original, yeah,
Okay.
I printed them.
Please, Samuel.
Okay.
We've signed, you
No.
need to sign this page as well, as, I'll sign second, first
There were
page,
down,
two
second.
there were 2 pages on each one, but
And because I was sitting next to her, she told me personally, but I forgot to pass the word down.
No, we won't hold it against you.
While we're signing, the next item on the thing is to assign a new road name for the 911 system.
Yep, Kathy Gagan prepared a memo as the E911 officer. This is off from K&D. This is for the Family General store that's being built across the street. There are 3 possible names that have been apparently vetted by the chiefs. Pullen Drive, Brown Drive, and Dearman Drive. If you'd like to support one of those 3,
Since long before any of us were born, that has been pulling property up there. I'd like to see it be Pullen Drive, but I don't know how the others feel.
Where'd the other names come from?
Out of the hat, I think. Did you all-
Is that the people who own the store or something? I don't know.
So make a motion.
I'd make a motion, we call it Pullen Drive. Do we accept Pullen Drive as a name, whatever?
second it.
All in favor of Pullen Drive?
4. Thank you.
Next item is discuss a range of items connected with tax incremental financing, TIF.
This is a discussion topic that the council indicated they'd like to get started on, but by way of introduction, I wanted to mention a couple of emails that came today, came this morning, with regards to this regional effort that we've discussed and taken some part in during the early going with the meetings. A couple of ideas have emerged for the joint use of TIF funds. One is a fire training facility. Dave, I don't know if that's what you're here to talk about? No? Chief Hoffman had mentioned to me that he was at a meeting in Fairfield among the fire chiefs to use some of this natural gas TIF development money to develop a fire training facility in Fairfield. And the thought is that a regional effort could accomplish a better facility than any town working alone. I'm not really prepared to discuss that proposal, except to let you know that that idea has been discussed among the chiefs. The other idea that has come to my attention today is that this Sustainable Mid-Maine Coalition that has been working for 5 years with participation from the area and some of the colleges in the area has also indicated an interest in working jointly and creating a program that would provide funds from these TIF monies to do energy retrofits for homes in the communities. And so there are 2 ideas that have come up. Well, I learned of these emails that came here today, but Chief Coffin had mentioned it earlier that he'd been to this other meeting about the fire training thing. So the point is, the TIF discussion thing is that this idea of a regional effort is part of the discussion. There's not, a lot of concrete, but at least the ideas are floating around and probably should be part